So my last review, Tall in the Saddle, featured John Wayne and Gabby Hayes as a duo of cowboy heroes. And you know what? I enjoyed the film so much, I just felt like doing one more film with the Duke before getting back into my watch list for the year. So I decided to check out the film West of the Divide from 1934. You know, I don't often delve into the 1930s, so I thought this would be kind of fun. And wouldn't you know it, not only does this film feature John Wayne, but it's also got Gabby Hayes without his telltale beard. And to make it even better, this one was in the public domain. Hey, so let's check this one out. I'll give an overview of the film, spoiler free, and then offer some closing thoughts about the movie. Well, the film opens up, and we have John Wayne playing the character of Ted Hayden. He is there with his friend, Gabby Hayes, who plays Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes? Well, Ted gives us a bunch of exposition explaining how many years ago he had been shot and left for dead. His father had also been shot and killed, and all he remembers is the laughter of a crazy man. And he had been found by Dusty, and this was about 12 years ago, and he brought him in and took care of him and helped him get better. Ted also shares with us how he had a younger brother that had gone missing. I mean, it's really quite a lot of background for the first 4 minutes of the film, but we kind of get the picture of what's going on. Now, suddenly, a man staggers towards them. It's the outlaw, Gat Gans, but he just kind of stumbles and falls to the ground because apparently he had been drinking from a poisoned spring and he dies on the ground before them. So they look through his outfit and they find a letter of introduction, basically saying that this Gat Gans guy, he's bad news, and he is going to go and work for a character named Gentry. Gentry, we will find out, is the same man who bought the Hayden Ranch after Ted's father was murdered. Awful convenient, it would seem, but whatever. Dusty points out that Ted resembles Gat Gans. Another nice convenience. So Ted decides to pretend to be the dead cowboy in order to investigate. Now we are introduced to the character of Gentry. He is this instantly unlikable character played by Lloyd Whitlock. And he is meeting with a kindly old rancher, Fred Winters, played by Laugh McKee, and his lovely daughter, Fay, played by Virginia Brown Fair. Now, Gentry's scheme is he wants to buy the ranch from Winters, but old Winters just won't sell. So Fay is about to head off to town to deliver some money, but that sneaky Gentry character, in secret, sends out 2 of his goons to go after her to steal the money. So these bad guys take off after her, and there's an exciting chase, and she almost gets away, but eventually she ends up falling off of her horse. So she runs into an abandoned cabin to hide right as the bad guys arrive. Now these 2 guys just can't get along with one another, and they start fighting, calling each other things like, you pink-eyed weasel. And while grappling for a gun, it accidentally goes off a few times, and one of the shots happens to graze Fay, who is in hiding. Well, a little bit later, Ted and Dusty just happen conveniently to arrive at the same abandoned cabin, and they go inside, and once inside, Ted notices dripping blood from above. He goes to investigate, and he finds Fay. So they hurry and they bring her to town to the doctor to have her looked at, and just in time it would seem, but she's going to make it. Now Ted, meanwhile, goes to meet with Gentry. Now remember, he has taken on the identity of Gat Gans, the bad guy, so he gets hired. Now, Gentry wants him to go and take out that old Winters character, but not Fay, because he plans to marry her. So Gentry then takes them to meet with the character of Butch, actor Blackie Whiteford, and Ted kind of looks puzzled. Seems like he recognizes him from somewhere before. Well, we are introduced to the character of Spuds, actor Billy O'Brien, who is a 12-year-old boy who lives with the criminals and is treated pretty poorly by them. He's driving a horse and a wagon and tries to avoid a dog, and in doing so, he loses control of the wagon. Well, Ted sees this and rides in to rescue. He jumps on the wagon and saves Spuds. It's a pretty exciting scene as he jumps onto the wagon and stops it. Now, back at the house, Butch is about to give Spuds a literal whipping, but Ted steps in, and it's a big old fist fight as Dusty watches and chews. Ted, of course, wins and just beats Butch to the ground, and Spuds is now his best friend. So later, Ted and Dusty, they're supposed to go and kill Winter. Remember, that's their assignment. But instead, in secret, Ted throws a rock with a warning note to Fay. basically letting them know that Gentry and his goons are going to plan to steal their cattle, but they just need to stay out of it. Don't worry, because if they go out, he's going to get shot. And since they were warned, he has basically saved Winter's life. Now, the next day, Gentry orders Ted to go to Winter's ranch, offering to retrieve his stolen cattle and then later to kill him on the range. Oh, what a jerk. Now, Ted, however, explains Gentry's scheme to Winter in private, and they figure out a plan of going back and telling Gentry that, yes, they went ahead and they had killed Winter, and they even make a small grave for him, too. Now, Gentry sees this and says, okay, the old man's dead, promises to pay him the next day, but then he returns back to his evil base and tells the thugs to go and kill Gat Gans, because he is an outlaw, and if they kill him, they can get the reward money. Double-cross and no-good scoundrel. But Spuds overhears this and then hurries off to warn Ted. But can he make it in time? Or will these evil bad guys make it to Ted and finish him off? Well, I'm not going to give away the ending to this exciting Western. You need to see for yourself to see what happens. So some closing thoughts. West of the Divide was released in 1934, although the opening title shows 1933, so I don't know. It's around that time frame. It was directed by Robert Bradbury, and it was produced by Monogram Pictures, although the opening credits show Lone Star Productions. And as mentioned before, this one is in the public domain. Now, my thoughts on the film. This was an enjoyable John Wayne Western. Plenty of horse chases and fist fights and fun stuff like that. Don't read too much into the story. There's a lot of kind of silly coincidences that drive the narrative along, but it's all good. This was a short film at about an hour, and it's not overly deep or anything. It's just an exciting Western with John Wayne as that larger-than-life Western hero going undercover as an outlaw to help an old rancher and his lovely daughter. He's there with his scruffy old friend Gabby Hayes, and if you know the two of them are together in a Western, everything's going to work out okay. And it was really interesting to me to see Gabby without his signature full beard. Instead, he's just kind of got like a grizzle to his face. I'm so used to seeing him bearded, looking like the old prospector, that it's kind of unusual not to see the beard. He doesn't quite look the same. I mean, I've seen a bunch of films that he has been in on this channel, with John Wayne, Roy Rogers, or William Boyd, and he's always got the beard. But let me know in the comments if he's been in any other films that you can think of without that scruffy beard. I'd like to check him out. Again, John Wayne and Gabby Hayes, they're always a treat to see together in a film, and they've been in quite a few. The two had first worked together on Riders of Destiny in 1933, and their last film together was Tall in the Saddle from 1944. Lloyd Whitlock is great here as the main baddie of the film. He just gives off this evil guy vibe, and he's relentless with one despicable scheme after another. He gets his comeuppance at the end of the film, as you can expect. Virginia Brown Fair was a silent film actress who had appeared in dramatic films and later in sound westerns. It was curious watching this film that I wasn't really sure about the time frame. It looks like we're in the Old West, but then we see the doctor driving a primitive-looking automobile. There's an old-style phone at one point, and I could have sworn watching the film I caught power lines and a couple roads here and there. So who knows exactly when this was supposed to be set? Another observation from the film is that this being cinema for the 1930s, I kind of like how sparse the music was in the film. And I know that sounds really odd for me to say, because in a lot of the reviews I do on this channel, I compliment the musical scores. And yet for some reason, I like the absence of music in this particular film. During some of the chase scenes and fight scenes, you sort of find yourself focusing on the sound of the galloping hooves and the slamming of fists in a fight and things like that. I mean, yeah, we get so accustomed to, the hero jumps on a wagon to stop a runaway horse and you hear the dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, that type of music, that sometimes it can be an experience to see a scene like that without the music. I also love how actors from the 1930s would have this style of hair where it would be really long on top and brushed back, but if it got disheveled, it does the Shemp Howard thing. John Wayne is fighting a guy, and he punches him a few times, and he's just got hair tumbling down across his face. It's great. Anyhow, let me wrap this one up. West of the Divide from 1934 was an enjoyable and brief Western adventure with John Wayne and Gabby Hayes. It's got chases, fistfights, and of course, John Wayne. What more do you need in a Western? It's a fun movie, and it's one worth checking out.